Well, hi, I'm John Hart. Welcome back to Mr. America Hart. Today we're talking about high volume training. High volume training. Now, back in the day, if we go back about 50 years ago or so, maybe even further back, there was a prevailing understanding or prevailing wisdom of the day, let's say. I'm not calling it wisdom, but I'm just saying it was wisdom of the day. And at the time, this was when dinosaurs, romped the planet, apparently. Arnold Schwarzenegger, Lou Ferrigno. We had some of the biggest bodybuilders around at the time. They were big, they had nice sized frames. And then there were also plenty of other bodybuilders that seemed to follow them. I mean, we're talking about the top names at the time. Arnold being pretty much the top name in the early 70s, straight through the 70s. And in that era, when bodybuilding became popularized, that was through the documentary Pumping Iron. When Arnold did Pumping Iron, as well as all the boys, bodybuilders, I should say, world champions and others that did Pumping Iron, at the time, bodybuilding prior to this documentary was considered a cult sport, a garage sport, underground. They were weirdos, these bodybuilders that want to grow muscles on their bodies. They were considered weird. They were muscle bound. They were not able to perform in sports and all of that. Of course, we know different today. And we know that through the weight training, many athletes, many teams have totally shattered records over the last 50 years, primarily because they built up their strength, mobility, flexibility, all of that, and their overall fitness levels from the weight training. So I don't want to digress too far. Let me get back to it. High volume training at the time. Arnold was the biggest proponent of the time. If you listen to any of Arnold's old interviews back in the day when he was on TV, on talk shows, he would talk about training 2 hours a day, 6-7 days a week, every day, 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours at night. And he was really, blowing this up, making it sound like it was much, much bigger than what the general public would ever be able to withstand. And because of that, a lot of people did buy into the fact or buy into the idea that more is better. And high volume training would continue on past that point. What do I mean by high volume training? About 20 plus sets per body part per workout. I mean, that's a massive amount of work when you're talking about, coming close to having actual working sets of 20 sets. I mean, it beat up some bodies. Not only that, but the biggest problem with HVT, high volume training, is it's not using resources, glycogen stores and all of that, and the threat of overtraining, because your system will shut it down after a while. You just won't feel like training so much, and you can't. Two major factors past that are a major problem. The second one is the first of the two big problems is with all of that overtraining, you'll beat up your immune system. Beating up your immune system means that you can't beat down a virus as easily. So the tendency to get sick and get common colds would rise up quite a bit. And who knows, if you have a compromised immune system, it could get much worse than that. We've seen that happen the past few years with COVID and all of that. And then secondly, the biggest problem that I see is overuse injuries. When your system, when you have joints that are not perfectly aligned, when you have a little bit of tendonitis here or there, and I'm talking about acute tendonitis. Suddenly it can become chronic tendonitis. So chronic that, the pain is unbearable. And you find yourself in physical therapy or with a great soft tissue specialist. And now you're spending money on time and money on fixing problems that you should have never had in the first place. So that's my big case against the high volume training. Why is it dead these days? Well, I can think back, all through the 70s, the 80s, and even the late 90s, a lot of the top bodybuilders still would use a fair amount of volume. I wouldn't call Lee Haney one of the greatest bodybuilders of all time. I wouldn't call him a super high volume trainer. He was more of a moderate volume trainer, and he did vary his intensity, which I like very much. But once we got into the 90s and got past the Dorian Yates era, we went to Ronnie Coleman. Ronnie Coleman used quite a bit of volume, and Jay Cutler. Man, Jay Cutler was an outward proponent of high volume training for himself, and I would assume for others as well. But he always said he was a high volume trainer, which we could assume people would watch that and say, hey, I want to be like him. I want to grow big muscles. I want to do high volume training too. Well, Jay did tear up his body as well as we got into the early 2000s. He torn bicep. I know that at one point he had a little torn calf at one point. But again, I don't want to get off the trail. But with Jay passing in training and passing, he's still alive, but I mean passing the Olympia torch, the next generation, that whole high volume approach of training just has kind of started to fade away. When we're talking about 20, 25 sets, working sets plus, it's impossible to recover from. Even those who are enhanced using the steroid, it's challenging at best. You must have some great genetics to recover from workouts like that and be able to sit around and get great sleep and not really work a full-time job. However, the natural bodybuilders, it's just utter destruction for the naturals. If you're not taking anything, you'll never recover from 20 plus sets per body part. It just doesn't happen per workout. So I'm happy to see high volume training, and it's not being used much in the gym anymore. If you look around, you just don't see it in the gym. People are not training a body part for 25 sets. If they are, the intensity is so low. They're not growing anything. They're not stimulating anything to happen. Basically, they're just socializing their way through their workout and spending time in the gym. I see a lot of that. I'm not, however, talking about them. I've been around gyms my whole life. I'm talking about the ones who are actually training hard. The harder you train, the shorter the workout becomes. That's just a given fact. So if you're training really, really hard, high volume training, it ain't going to happen. It's just not going to happen. That's the fact. Your body will stop. It will quit on you long before you ever hit 25 plus sets per body part. So happy to see high volume training go here in the 2020s we're in now, in 2022. So happy to see it go, and happy to see that a lot of the bodybuilders out there, both male and female, are using a little bit more sanity. What is going on today? I see a lot more moderate volume, okay, which is a good thing. Moderate volume, maybe 8 to 12 sets of body part, and they train it 1 to 2 times a week on average. That's what I see in the gyms. So that's it for today. From my heart to you, John Hart. Hey, before you go, off to my left, you're going to see a disc pop up next to my head. That is the subscribe button for my channel. Please give that thing a tap. It lets YouTube know that you're interested in my videos and you want to see when they get notified when they come up. Down below, you're going to see a thumbs up over there off to your left. Please give that thing a tap and turn it blue. That lets the YouTube algorithm know how much you like my videos, and I love it too. See you soon.